Let's make a Christmas soap that's been in my head for quite some time. So first I'm going to show you how I created the mold. I needed the perfect size of light bulbs. So I purchased a package of light bulbs off of Amazon. I needed them to be the perfect size. They couldn't be, I didn't want the little miniature Christmas lights, but I didn't want the large ones either. So I had to find the perfect ones. And I glued them, the actual glass bulbs, into the bottom of a pan. I mixed up my mix of silicone mixture. I have two parts that I mix together until it's all uniform. And then I pour this over the light bulbs. 24 hours later, and it is completely set up, and I remove the silicone from the pan. And I have to remove these light bulbs, and I have to be very, very careful so the glass does not break. And then I have to use my X-Acto knife to finish opening up all of those cavities, or else my soap will not come out. So I'm just opening up all of those cavities to make it so my soap will easily be removed from the mold. And when I'm done with this, I am able to start pouring my soaps. So these light bulbs are going to be the embeds on the top of my soap, and I need them in 5 different colors. So the first batch is going to be red, and I'm just making all of them red. Each batch is going to be all one color. And after they set up, I am removing them from the mold, and then I'm pouring the green. And then I remove the green from the mold, and I repeat this process with blue, red, green, yellow, and purple. So now that I have all of my colors made, I'm still not done because I need to dip the ends in some gray or silver soap so it looks like the metal part of the light bulb. And when I'm done dipping them, this is what they will all look like. I recorded 2 hours of video for this one soap, so I am going to be fast forwarding through a lot of the repetitive parts and try to keep this video under 10 minutes. So I knew what I wanted the very top of the soap to look like, but I really went back and forth a lot in my head about what I wanted the actual inside of the soap to look like. Part of me wanted it to be green. I just kept picturing all these different ideas in my head. And ultimately, I decided to make a neutral color soap without adding any colorants to the base of the soap. And then I was going to try to do some little drops in it to kind of make it look like lights, like colored lights. I knew this was going to be a challenge because I wasn't sure how my fragrance was going to behave in this soap. I wasn't sure if it was going to accelerate, if it was going to solidify. I didn't know what was going to happen. So I was kind of winging it at the same time. So I made a neutral soap and I poured this into my mold. The fragrance I used for this soap is called Hollyberry Garland. It has top notes of berries, blackberries, middle notes of garland greens, and base notes of balsam fir and vetiver. So after I poured my first layer of soap into my mold, I very, very quickly made another very small batch, and I'm splitting it up into 5 containers and then adding my colorants. And I want each of these to be the 5 colors that were in the light bulbs. So I had blue, green, purple, yellow, and red. And I needed them to stay liquid, and I had to pour these into these pouring bottles, into these squirt bottles. And I knew I was racing against time in this one because I did not know if this batter was going to remain fluid long enough for me to do what I wanted to do with it. So I'm pouring my soap into all these 5 colors into my squirt bottles. And then I'm using a method with my squirt bottles that you've seen me use before to make like raindrops. So I'm using the squirt bottle to create these raindrops. You'll see me like pouring the stripe. It looks like stripes down the soap. And I noticed that the neutral batter, you can see the grooves, which means it's already starting to set up. And that's not a good thing. It's not a good thing at all. So I'm very quickly trying to get my colors to just get these stripes in here as quickly as possible. And then at one point I started to just pour the red on the very top of the soap, but I only did that with the red. I decided I didn't want to continue doing that. Like I said, I was kind of winging it at this point because I didn't know if this was even going to work. So I'm getting all 5 colors, hoping that I will have like what looks like multicolored lights or raindrops in the very bottom part of the soap. And I keep shaking my bottles because I could feel that they were already setting up on me, which is not what I wanted. So then I had to make one more batch of the same neutral colored soap. My plan was to do the same for the top as I did for the bottom, but I knew I wasn't going to have enough time to do this because once I mixed my colors, I was going to have the exact same problem with those grooves and it just wasn't going to work. And I was going to end up with gaps in my soap. So I made another neutral batch of soap and just poured this into my mold on top of the previous soap that I had poured. And I kind of stood there for a minute, like debating. I did debate on if I wanted to swirl it or not, the colors in the bottom. But I ultimately decided to just leave it as is. I was kind of curious to see if those colors turned out the way I wanted. You can see me shaking the bottles, and they were just completely solid. So I ended up just leaving it as is. The next day, it was time to unmold, cut the soap, and to finish decorating the top. So I unmolded this 25-pound slab of soap and then used my log splitter to cut this slab into 4 loaves. And then I used my multi-bar cutter to cut those loaves into individual bars. Next, I had to mix up another small batch of soap. This one's going to be green. This is going to be like the wires that the bulbs hang on. So I am mixing up a green batch of soap and then I'm letting it set up for a few minutes so I can pipe it. So after my soap was ready in my piping bag, I'm piping a little swirly line on the very top of the soap and then adding one of those light bulbs on the very top. When I was done, this is what the soaps looked like. This is what the tops look like with those little light bulbs on top, and this is what the insides of the soap look like. So just like when I poured the soaps, I poured those multicolored stripes in the very bottom. So that's what you see in the bottom of the bars. I actually think the colors inside of the soap look really pretty. They kind of look like the lights are dropping to the bottom of the bars. So I'm really happy with how these turned out, and they smell so good and so festive for Christmas. These soaps are now heading to my curing racks for the next 4 weeks, but they are available for pre-order on my website right now at earthrella.com, but they will not begin shipping until the week of November 17th. So if you want to guarantee that you'll get one of these soaps, I strongly recommend pre-ordering so you will not miss out. Thank you so much for watching.